Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Elizabeth and I run the blog lifefromtheviolasection.com, where I share my favorite practice tips, general advice, and tech for musicians. I'm also a private music teacher. That's what I do most of the time. I teach viola, violin, and piano lessons through the week. And today I want to share some of my favorite websites and apps and teaching resources for music teachers, so that if you don't use any of these things, hopefully you can find something new to help you out, improve your teaching, and just automate and make things a little bit easier for yourself. So we're going to talk through some invoicing websites, my bank account a little bit, places that I find teaching resources, and where I make my graphics, all those kinds of things, and a couple apps that I use within my lessons basically every day of the week. So let's dive into the first one, which is HoneyBook. This is my HoneyBook homepage. I'm sorry a lot of it is blurred out, but there's a lot of student information on here and I want to keep all of that private. So right here on the homepage, it's very kind to you, but it shows you all of your different projects. So projects are what I make. So I make my projects as like blanks piano lessons or blanks violin lessons, things like that. Then payments, you can see what's overdue, what's been paid recently, any payments that are coming up to be due. You can set some tasks here. I've never used that, but could be helpful. Then you have your calendar. I have mine set to sync with my Google Calendar so that everything is all integrated. And then you have reports, which can show you profit and loss, just profit, just your expenses, and also where you've made your money from, like where your students have been coming from or where your leads have been coming from. So here is an overview of some of the helpful tools that they have on here. Recently, I've been using the time tracker function because I'm working on a freelance project where I'm doing a bit of editing and reworking. So instead of charging by the word, I'm charging per hour. So I'm keeping track of my time that way. There are a lot of different powerful things that you can use here. The main thing that I do here in HoneyBook is create invoices for my students, and I invoice monthly. So usually I will go through the list of projects and just go one by one through my students, but in an effort to not blur so much stuff out, we'll just do it this way: new invoice. And then you can have your own templates. So what I've been doing is I've created 4-week invoices, and then I also need to still create 3-week invoices. Okay, so I selected a student, got all that. So my invoice looks like this. Sorry again for the blur. So the first page of the invoice is to sign up for my monthly studio class. So I offer 1 hour-long studio class monthly for all of my students. It's on Zoom, and it costs $10 per student to attend. So in an effort to make things easy to sign up, I've put this on the first page of each monthly invoice. So if you want to sign up, you just select the quantity to 1, or if you have 3 kids taking lessons from me and you want them all to attend, you just up the quantity to 3. And then that's it. So you see a preview of what studio class is going to be like that month. And there you go. Second page is the actual invoice. So it says if they select anything from the first page, the monthly studio class, it'll show up for them here, but it doesn't for me because you don't know what they're going to choose. So my template looks like this for 30-minute lessons. If it's viola, lately I've just been changing this to viola, even though I have lots of templates. So what I'll do is I just make sure that they're going to have 4 lessons, and then I write in the date and the time for each lesson. That way it's very clear to them when I am and when I'm not teaching, and anything like that. I will say in an email if I'm not teaching a certain date, or if we need to possibly reschedule anything. A way that you could make this a bit easier on yourself is you can just change the quantity of how many lessons they're going to have. So if they're going to have 4 that month, just change it to 4. Just have that be the only thing in the invoice. And then it'll charge them the price for 4 lessons. That can be an easy thing to do. So it shows you the subtotal. You can add a discount if you want. I've done this before, though usually I will just, if they were sick or if I missed a lesson or something and I'm trying to refund them for a lesson, I'll just make the price 0, and then I'll just say credit from last month, something like that. Though I don't actually want a discount. So here at the bottom, you can choose what the due date should be. You can make your due dates a bit different depending on what you want. The easiest thing I've found to do is custom date. So I try to send my invoices out around the 15th of the month before, but lately it's been getting to like 28th of the month or something like that. So there's no real good way to set like the first of the next month. So what I do is just custom date, and then I change it on the calendar to the day that I actually want it to be due. Now it comes to upcoming, and then once I send this invoice to them, it will show like payment upcoming from this person, and then it'll show me exactly when they pay it and give me an estimate of when it'll come into my bank account. After that is all good, I press the share button, and it comes up with a template for an email to actually link them to the invoice. So I'll usually title it May Violin Invoice. It automatically inputs their first name, but if you want to do something different, just delete it and write in their name. And then if I have any announcements, I'll just write those in here. I won't be teaching May 6th, something like that. And then I can put in my name, and I have an email signature saved in here, so I can just add that quickly on, and it looks nice and professional. Then once they get it, it will look like this. They just press the button to actually go to the invoice and pay it. So it's all encrypted, and they can pay with a credit card or a bank transfer. It's just very nice, just like ordering anything else online. So it's very, very simple, and it works for all of my students, thankfully. Okay, let's talk about Zoom. So Zoom is what I use for all of my online lessons and my monthly studio classes and recitals, or at least like online based things like that. So what I use is just one meeting ID, one link for all of my students, for all of my lessons, for all of my studio classes. So that is just my personal meeting ID that Zoom created for me back at the start when I first started doing this. So it is just simply that meeting. I start it, here I am, and all of my students have this link. So when it's time for their online lesson, they just come here and I'm here. And it's easy. One Zoom link, if I have back-to-back students, the next student just joins. My current student will leave when they're done. I bring in the next person. Next student comes in. Current student leaves. I bring the next person in. Super nice. Works really well. My main reasoning for sticking with Zoom is because of all of the audio settings. So what you want to have are these settings. First, make sure to uncheck the box that says automatically adjust microphone volume, because that will sometimes lift the levels when you're talking and lower them when you're playing. What we really want to focus on though is audio profile. So you want to be sure to have original sound for musicians selected and high fidelity music mode. If you're playing without headphones and you notice a lot of echoing going on, you can check echo cancellation. I wear my AirPods for this very reason. Echo cancellation does degrade the sound a little bit. But if you don't have headphones and if you're getting a lot of echoes, then it can be worth it. Also, there's this new polls and quizzes feature. I used this in a studio class, my March studio class, which was about Irish fiddling. I created a poll and I was like, which song that we listened to was your favorite? And then they could just interact that way instead of like shouting out answers all at the same time. So that's a cool feature that I want to use more in my group studio classes. That's the main overview of Zoom. I've shown a couple more in-depth things on my channel. Just check out the cards if you want to see those. This is my Noteflight homepage. This is where I do all of my arranging for students and potentially to sell things too, because that's something that I've just started. I haven't mentioned it here on this channel, but I've started selling some of my arrangements through ArrangeMe, which just publishes your sheet music arrangements on the popular sheet music purchasing sites like Sheet Music Plus, musicnotes.com, places like that. So I'll show you a little bit of what I've been doing for a piano student. This is From Now On from The Greatest Showman. I got just the regular piano, vocal, guitar part, and I want to make this into an easy piano piece. So I stopped right about here. So the second page is more what it originally looked like. So this is a little bit too in-depth for the student that I'm making this for. So what I did was I copied the vocal line and I pasted it into the right-hand piano part because I want the lyrics to still be in there, and really she's mostly just going to be playing the melody line in the right hand anyway. Then what I'm doing is I'm thinning out these chords So it looks like the chord is C sharp minor. Though, okay, so actually, what I did first, this was originally an E major. Wanted to avoid all those sharps, so I just put it down into C major. And I believe that these chords, these chords did not stick through. So C sharp would be the 6th chord in E. So in C, that would be A. So this should just be an A. And I just keep that a whole note. I'm going to put them up the octave so her hands are close together. And that'll help if she needs to play some low notes in right hand, the left hand can kind of just take over for them. So once I'm done arranging this, I can actually publish it or like put it up for sale. So the way that I can do this is I go to score details, sell. It's through arrange me. And then first I need to actually purchase it. I started arranging it and it didn't make me purchase it first, so I will have to buy it. And then I can sell it as my own arrangement and make money off of it. Another way that I've been using Noteflight recently is with ForScore, which is my most recent video if you're watching this as it was just uploaded. So one that I did from ForScore was this song by Imagine Dragons for one of my students. This was originally someone else's arrangement from MuseScore. I scanned it, put it into ForScore, and then exported it as an XML file and uploaded it into Noteflight. Part of this arrangement was just too difficult for her and she wanted it down an octave, and it does fit a little bit better for a beginning violinist down an octave, which is where I put it. So it imported into Noteflight. A couple rhythms were a little off and there's like extra 3s in there from the triplet groupings, but I made it work, and it was so much more simple than inputting all of the notes one by hand. So that's how I've been using Noteflight recently. If you'd like a bigger overview of ForScore, just check out my most recent video. It'll be linked up in the eye. Alright, if you've been watching my videos for a while, at least my tech videos, you've seen me talk about ForScore a million times by now, but today I want to show you specifically a couple ways that I use it in my teaching every week. So here I have a very, very popular piece that students learn in the Suzuki book. This is from the first viola Suzuki book. It's Minuet number 3. So I just have it on my own. I have scans of almost everything that I teach with because I can have this up, and if I'm teaching online, I just share my screen and then I can show them like, hey, I'm talking about this measure right now. Or if they need a new fingering, if they're learning about shifting, which they're usually not in this piece, I can write my own finger numbers up here. And then it's easier than saying, okay, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, like on these notes, and then, you know, we get confused and it's a lot of talking, so visually seeing it is usually so much easier. So I use this both as a whiteboard, also for me to just follow along with the student, and it's easy to just have everything here. The more things that I have scanned, the smaller the pile of books on my desk gets through the week, which is very nice. I can also do things with different colors. So if a student is having a hard time remembering what strings different notes are on, I'll usually just write the string name over here like this, and I like to use a different color so that it doesn't get confusing with different fingerings and stuff like that. So one other thing that I really like about ForScore, particularly for teaching, is that if I want to send these notes over to someone, first of all, I can just take a screenshot and I can put that into their Google Doc notes. But if they want like a PDF copy to print out with my specific markings on it, I just tap on the music with my finger. If you use your pencil, it goes into automatic like annotation mode. Then go over to the 3 dots in the title bar, then to the upload symbol. Then I choose annotated PDF. Now you can choose a page range. So it looks like I'm on page 24. So that's all I want to share. Just type those numbers in, or you can use the plus and minus. Then I can share, and it gives me the option to send it to people. Usually I just airdrop it over to my computer and then email it out, or send it off wherever it needs to go. But it's very easy to share things through ForScore, which is one of the reasons why I love to use it for teaching. While we're on my iPad, let's look at GoodNotes next. So GoodNotes is this icon down in my home, and I have this notebook called Lesson Notes. I wonder if I can see how many pages it is. 147 pages long so far. This is just a notebook that I keep. The template is staff paper. So I just open this up in a lesson if I need a whiteboard to talk through music or draw something out. Especially it's been helpful for my violists who are starting to learn treble clef. They'll learn one little, like, one line exercise, and then they'll go, okay, let's try it in treble clef, and I just write it out really quick. And it's nice that I have it here. So if I'm in an online lesson, I just share my screen and then use it as a whiteboard with whatever they need. Just like talking through the space notes, things like that. Sorry, I did this stem the wrong way. That was kind of dumb of me. There we go. Or if it's in person, I just, do this kind of thing and they can see. You get it. There are lots and lots of GoodNotes tutorials over here, and I don't think I even know half the capabilities of this app, but it's very nice to just pull something up and be able to write whatever I want. Some people will do the same thing in ForScore. They'll just have a piece of blank staff paper like saved in ForScore, and they'll just write on it. But I think that I like the drawing and like writing capabilities in this a little bit better. ForScore kind of bends my writing, and I'm sure I can change that feature somewhere. I just haven't. And this one, I don't know, just have easy access to all of these different colors. I can easily change things, and I can also import pictures. So if I take a picture of someone's music, I can put it in here and write on it even more. This is helpful if we've got like a theory worksheet or something. I'll just snap a picture of it if I don't already have it scanned. Then I just import it here as a picture. It makes things pretty easy and pretty simple. So here are some examples of how I've used it in the past. This top one was a treble clef example, something that the student did in alto clef first, but they were really high ledger lines and we're learning treble clef anyway. So just wrote it out in treble clef for her. This is an example of a worksheet or just something that I wanted to write on. Just took a quick picture of it with my iPad and then put it in here to write on it. Here I took a screenshot from MuseScore and then I wrote the finger numbers in it to help out a student. More just note naming, and this I wrote out kind of a string finger diagram for viola. This is the C harmonic minor scale pattern where the student should put their fingers. Really helped her understand it visually. So GoodNotes is a great visual resource for teaching. I really like it just as a whiteboard, really. Another helpful app for music teaching that I found is TomPlay, which is a website/app that a couple of my students have found their own pieces on. So this is basically just a sheet music resource that also plays the music with you and has backing tracks. And I think the backing tracks and like the play along feature is really like the selling point that they try to make on this website. So I've used this to find some undertale music for one specific student. I ended up kind of mixing together these two parts, but here is one of them. This is the more difficult one. So it opens up the sheet music, and I can't scroll for some reason with my trackpad on the iPad case, but there's all the music for it. If you pay for the membership, which I do now, you can easily print, and it tells me how many prints I have left. You get 100, I guess, for the year. So if you want to play along, you can choose how loud everything is. So if you just want to play like karaoke style, put the main instrument down to 0 and you'll just hear the accompaniment. You can change the tempo, and it shows you where the recommended tempo, I guess, goes. You can play, and you can also record yourself. You can also write on it. Other settings are here, but I find it helpful to just find different arrangements of pieces for students here. And they've also shown me things on here, so it's helpful for me to download it. I can look at the same exact sheet music that they're looking at as well. So I haven't played around with this too much in depth yet, but there it is. I do find it a little bit difficult to search for things, but they do have some cool collections, which I would like to try out. Let's open this one. Defying Gravity would sound great on viola. It does have 5 sharps, so it might be difficult for some students, but it tells you intermediate level. It always tells you the difficulty level right on the side there. So there's that one. And there's also classical sheet music on here. This one's for viola and piano, originally for cello, but arranged for viola. Easy to intermediate difficulty, and it says with finger annotations, so it probably has some recommended finger numbers in it, and shifting and stuff like that. So easy to find some stuff in here. And if you want to just play things, especially with backing tracks, this is really fun. I got, oh look, they have the viola concerto in here, which would be very helpful if you're learning it, to easily just be able to play it with a pianist at any speed that you want. And ForScore is very similar. You just have to do some of the work yourself by scanning it in first. This is all just there and integrated in the app. This one also has finger annotations as well. Now let's go to play. And then I can, so you can see the individual part as well, which is very nice. And you can also print it if you have a membership. So helpful little app, great place to find some sheet music in different arrangements. Generally, if I look for an arrangement of something, this website will pop up in like the top 5 recommendations on Google. So I was encountering it a lot before I actually downloaded the app and really tested it out. So good recommendation, definitely something I'm going to look more into. And if I find a lot of like tips and tricks and secrets in it, then I might make a standalone video just on this. So this is my hub for basically like everything. I just upload and back up everything over Google Drive. I have the 2 terabyte plan with unlimited Google photo storage, and I'm using up almost half of it. I just had to back up a hard drive so that I could clear it and reuse it again. So I might offload some of these things just to give myself a little bit more room. So one of the main ways that I use, well, there are so many ways that I use Google Drive, but for teaching, I keep student notebooks in here. So each student that I teach has a notebook through Google Drive, and here's a template that I made. I just put in their name right here. Here's the lesson Zoom link, the actual clickable link so that they can open this, and then just click right there, and then when they're done, they'll see everything that I've typed through the lesson, and just a template for the font and everything. So let's go to my fake one that I use all the time in YouTube videos. This one is not formatted, unfortunately, but this is how I set it up. I set up the date. When you scroll down, it goes back further in time. So I'll write down what we've been working on, things that they're doing well with, ways that I'd like them to practice, and some tips that we've talked through, and sometimes screenshots with finger numbers, or if it's an exercise that they don't have, maybe just a screenshot of an exercise that they can practice off of for the week. So I just share that with each student, and they can see it. It updates simultaneously, of course, because it's through Google Drive, and everything is up in the cloud. I keep all of my sheet music here, or at least like all of my scanned sheet music is really what I mean. So I have this divided out between like my own professional things and teaching. Violin music is all kind of in there because I'm primarily violist. So anyway, let's just stick in this folder. So I have them divided out by different categories, and I have just PDFs of sheet music. A lot of this would be things that I've downloaded or arranged myself for violin, and this is where I keep it. If I have to share it with a student, then I can just share them the link, and then they can download it and print it out if they need to. Also, just my own scans of books. I do have this PDF, this book, saved in ForScore, which is where I primarily read it from, but I have it backed up here in case I ever need to reset my iPad, delete everything. It is always going to live right here. I also have scans of Suzuki books in here, and also just separate pieces from the Suzuki books as well. So this is kind of just like my bookshelf of sheet music, but all just scans and all online. Other than that, I do have a folder of just music studio stuff, and this is kind of a hub for everything. One thing that I do share with students a lot are my recital folders. So this was my first Halloween recital. I have the recording, I have a copy of the program, and I have the group picture that we took. So this folder has been shared a lot of times. It's shared with all the parents, and I tell the parents they can share it with their loved ones who couldn't make it live and want to see it or just want to rewatch it again. So I do that with all of my recitals. This is also where I keep backups of different games or like games that actually work on Google. So this is a game that I bought from Teachers Pay Teachers, which we'll talk about very soon. This is just a rhythm and counting game. So you click on an acorn and it gives you a different rhythm. And then you just go back, you choose different ones, and you clap the rhythms. So that was a fun rhythm game that I shared with students back in the fall. But things like that can just live here in Google Drive, and it's easy for me to find, it's easy to share when I need it. This is where I keep my business bank account. This is found. Honestly, I found it through an Instagram ad, which I generally don't trust things through Instagram ads, but I looked it up. It's FDIC insured and all of that. So it's a real bank. And what I like about it is that all of the money that I make goes right in here. And then after I told it different things about myself and how I plan to file my taxes, it figures out an average of what I'm probably going to owe, and it already sets that aside as soon as anything is deposited from my account. So it takes an estimate of how much tax I'll have to pay off of that deposit, and it just puts it right into a separate part of the account just for taxes. So the app is pretty easy to use. You can send invoices through it, but I don't do that personally. And you can track all of your expenses through here, and you can also upload receipts into the actual expense so that they're all saved somewhere that's easy to find. And if you find an expense later on when you're doing your taxes and you're like, what is this? You can look at the receipt right there, have kind of a reminder of what it's like. Pay Teachers. This is just a website where you can find helpful teaching resources, and they're made by other teachers, or, it's kind of like Etsy, but just with teaching resources. People make their own things, they upload them and sell them. So I like to use this to find teaching resources, specifically like games and things like that for when students aren't feeling well, or if anyone is injured and they can't play. These are helpful ways to still teach them in a fun way without, it being really boring and without canceling lessons and losing money on my part. I know a lot of my students would probably be interested in this one. So you usually get a couple different formats included. One of them is usually Google Apps, so you'll get like a Google slideshow or planning documents in Google Docs, things like that. But it also will come in like a zip file, and you could just host them on your computer. So let's see what this one includes, or like what types of things. We get just one presentation with different formats: video, Google Slides, just resource sheet. It looks like maybe some examples, infographic, 2 worksheets, 2 more, 5 worksheets. And that's everything. Sometimes you can get one thing in a bundle with a lot of other things, like this one. This one looks like this one is just video games and music, but this one you can get that plus video games and sound and video game history. So then you can save a little bit of money by buying all 3 of those things together if you're interested in those things. So that acorn game that I showed you a couple minutes ago, I found that on Teachers Pay Teachers. Let's look at my purchases. This is a helpful one that I just downloaded a couple weeks ago, just fingering charts for viola, violin, all string instruments, or all orchestral string instruments. So I'm planning to use these when I teach accidentals, sharps, flats, naturals, just to show where they are, because, if you're watching this and you play a string instrument, you know how the fingerboard works. But it's almost always helpful for students to see things visually. And I did buy this one because it has 3rd position as well. And I have a lot of violinists and violists who are just starting 3rd position. And so this is going to be really helpful for them. I think that gives you all a pretty good idea of Teachers Pay Teachers. It's a website that lots of teachers use, and I always find really helpful resources on there. I personally use Canva Pro, which I really, really highly recommend, but the free version of Canva is a great way to start out. So I use Canva for basically all of my graphics, my thumbnails, anything you see that has been like edited or created through my channel, my Instagram, my website. I probably made it on Canva. So you can see a couple ways that I've used this: programs, thumbnails, different sizes of thumbnails for my website, kind of creating some screenshots of music into PDFs. I started making a musical era timeline, so I'll create lots of different graphics and slideshows, presentations, things like that on here. Sometimes I'll even just take out Canva graphics and put them on a blank background so that I can use them in videos, because I found that that's just a pretty easy way to go about it. So if you want to make a program on Canva, if you're a music teacher thinking about your spring recital, this is how I made our masterclass program that's actually going to be later today. I believe I started with this one, possibly. Looks very similar, but you can change the background color. So usually I just make it white because that's easy for printing. It looks like there's a background image or some kind of thing back there. Yeah, that's an image. Okay. We'll delete that just to make it easy for printing, and then we should probably make all of this black, or at least some dark kind of color if you're planning to print this. Of course, if you're not, go for all the different colors. So you can change this to just whatever you want. That's not actually what I call my private studio, but whatever. And then things like that, whatever you want. Personally, what I like to do for my own programs, find some kind of nice graphic, put it somewhere like around the bottom, like this. I'd probably put like something else around it, possibly maybe like some flowers or something small, I don't know. And then I go over to text, add a heading, so something like that, and then details, things like that. And then I'll go here, line it up in the middle, and then we want to spread it out as far as we want it to go. I usually just go with the square that it gives me, and then we can keep it center aligned. And then whatever font we want for, that one looks cool. Oh, I like that one. Okay. Let's make it just a little bit larger. And then the way that I like to lay out programs, oh, I can't tab in here. Sorry. You have to space, but we'll get it all lined up. We will. And then composer's name, waiting for it. Okay, we're not there yet, so I just keep spacing. There's probably such an easier way to do this. I have never figured it out in my years of making programs. And then I type the name and the instrument, 2 spaces, and then next piece. So that's the main way that I set a program. Sometimes I like to do a border. Let's see if I can just easily search for a border. I love all the elements on Canva. This one's kind of cool. It doesn't well, maybe it kind of goes with the graphic on the bottom, but I would make that a little bit smaller. Copy paste. Put it the same way down here, and then flip like that. Something like that. You can do it on all sides. I usually just like to do 2, but then it makes it a little weird with this. So you can do something else. I find it easier to make things pretty in here than it is on Google Docs or Microsoft Word. I don't even have Word installed on this new computer since I'm not a student and I don't get it for free anymore. I just only use Google and Canva. This one's also a nice one if you're doing a spring recital and you just want something on the bottom. Ooh, that's a really nice one. It would even look nice like on the top and bottom. We'll just flip that. Let's make them different colors too. Just make it that color. Nice. See, we're getting somewhere already. It's just easy to make things look very presentable and clean cut and professional in here. So there's an overview of what I use through the week on both my computer, my iPad, basically anywhere. So I hope that you enjoyed that. If you use any other teaching resource that I didn't mention today and you think would be very helpful for myself or others, please leave it in a comment down below. If you have any questions about what I shared today, please also leave that down below as well. Thank you so much for watching. I've also officially decided to just post videos every other week because I now have between like 32 and 35 students now, and it's getting really, really busy. So I can only really focus on making one high quality video every other week instead of reliably every week. So there you go. I hope to still provide high quality videos for you, just a little bit less often so that they can still be good. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and you'll see new videos from me every other Sunday at noon Eastern time. Thanks for watching.